Right, end of summer. We're into autumn, and I'm glad, honestly. I'm husky and hairy and English, so I don't do well in the sun. So I'm kind of glad we're getting into the cooler seasons. This is actually the first one of these I did was August 2023, so it's now been over 2 full years, and now we're in year 3 of these, which seems crazy to me. Seems like just yesterday. I watched a lot of good stuff this month, a lot of great TV, a lot of great new TV, and a lot of great, older TV that I, was catching up on. So let's dive in. Superstore. Started Superstore last month and finished it this month. This is going to sound crazy, actually. I finished it and I enjoyed it so much and I missed it so much that I just went back to the start and watched it again all the way through, and now I'm in the third go around. I'm in season 4 the third time because it's a perfect comfort show. It's a great background show, lovable characters, great chemistry in the ensemble, and there's no dead weight in the ensemble. Everyone's really funny and everyone's really lovable, and because it was 6 seasons, it didn't go on too long. You look at something like The Office, like 9 seasons, and they keep going 2 seasons, Steve Carell's gone, and you see a massive decline in quality. So you rewatch the show and you have to stop early if you don't want to be disappointed. But with Superstore, I feel like it held. It started out great and stayed great till the very end. And America Ferrara did leave in the last season, but she's there for the first couple of episodes and comes back for the last few. It's not like Steve Carell where he came back for a cameo in the last episode. She comes back for the final kind of story arc of 3 or 4 episodes. And it's a shorter season, so she's really only gone for like 8 episodes. So it hardly even qualifies as a show where the lead left and they carried on like 2.5 Men or The Office or The Walking Dead. But I can't recommend it enough. It's like the ultimate like feel-good show, but it also has lots of dark humor. Like that's kind of the genius of it, is that it's dressed up as this generic workplace sitcom with bright lighting, and it just seems like it'll be a very generic, very amiable, light-hearted sitcom, and then it deals with darker subjects. There's like severed feet keep popping up in the shop, and it touches on like controversial issues, like whether it's like gun laws or racism, or it's just a really great show. It's like presents as, typical sitcom and then delivers this deeper social commentary, and it delivers some darker humor that you're not expecting. And it's just, I've absolutely loved it. I'll probably finish it the third time and go back and start again, because it's even become like the comfort show I put on at night to fall asleep to. It's just like a warm, cozy blanket. Oppenheimer. I hadn't seen Oppenheimer since the cinema, I think. When it was out in cinemas, I went a few times because it was kind of a mind-blowing spectacle and, made for the big screen, as is everything Christopher Nolan touches. I hadn't watched it at home, but it's a great film. It goes on, it could be shorter, or at the very least, have the big climactic moment of the explosion later on, because that's like halfway through the film. Like you get to the explosion, which is what you came for, and then you got like another hour of movie, if not even more. And if you're going to do it chronologically, if you're going to do it non-chronologically, and you can put shit wherever you want, don't put the climactic moment in the middle. You need to put it near the end. But that's a tiny gripe, and Chris knows what he's doing. He put the explosion where the explosion is for a reason, and he's got the 2 timelines he's working with, and I suppose that is the 2 halves of the story. The first half is building the bomb, and the second half is the aftermath and the guilt. But yeah, great movie. Looks amazing still on a smaller screen. And Cillian Murphy obviously is fantastic in it. Sunset Boulevard. I had the opportunity to write a retrospective review of this, and I hadn't seen it in years. I think I watched it for the first time during the pandemic when I was watching everything I could get my hands on because there was fuck all else to do. And I gave it a perfect 10 out of 10 score, I think, because it's fantastic. It's, Gloria Swanson's performance as Norma Desmond is iconic and deeply unsettling and like scary, but also there's an underlying tragedy. You feel sorry for her, and I loved Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity. That was actually one of the first noirs I watched as a kid, and that's kind of like the quintessential classic noir. But then with Sunset Boulevard and with some of his other post Double Indemnity noirs like Ace in the Hole, he kind of subverted the tropes and conventions that he helped create. And with Sunset Boulevard, it's got the makeup of a noir, but it's like a Hollywood story, and it's about how the film industry chews up its stars and spits them out, and leaves a trail of broken lives. And it's as much a dark comedy as it is a noir as well. And it's got one of the most iconic openings with Joe Gillis lying in the pool dead and all the police looking over him, and it's got one of the most iconic endings with Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close close-up now. That whole monologue is incredible. She delivers that so well. And there's so many good lines in it. Like, one of the things Norma Desmond keeps saying is, you know, we didn't need dialogue, we had faces in the silent era. You could convey, silent actors could convey their performances without words. But for a movie that makes that point, it's got some doozy lines, you know. It's got, like, you know, I am big. It's the pictures that got small. So many good lines. It's just a classic, all-time masterpiece. Great film. And I got paid to watch it. The Naked Gun, the new one, Liam Neeson. I did a review of this, so you can check that out. But I really enjoyed this. It's, you know, I couldn't remember the last time I'd, like, sat in a crowded theater watching a straightforward comedy, not like a comedy drama or an action comedy, or just a pure comedy where the only goal is make you laugh, and you and the rest of the crowd are laughing hysterically through the whole thing. And it was so good. There's so much classic Naked Gun stuff in it, with, like, the slapstick and the puns and wordplay, and, you know, like, little background sight gags, like they come out of someone, you see the detectives come out of the cold case room, and it's like a freezer, and the case files they're holding are frozen. But it also had that kind of, you know, Akiva Schaffer, or in interviews and things, people have been calling him Akiva Schaffer. I just assumed it was Schaffer, but so Akiva Schaffer brings that kind of like Lonely Island weirdness to the humor. And, like, you know, the whole sequence with the snowman, there's like a romantic montage at a cabin where they build a snowman, and then the snowman, like, has a threesome with them, and then the snowman gets jealous and tries to kill them. There's a whole sequence where Liam Neeson rides an owl into the final battle. Or there's a whole, maybe my favorite scene, or certainly the scene that made me laugh the hardest, just because it came out of nowhere and it was so random and so specific, was when he's having a go at Pamela Anderson because she plugged his TiVo box into an Ethernet cable, and all his Buffy episodes are expired, and he's running through, like, all the characters and all the episodes that he's gonna miss, and it's you know, that was so funny and so specific. I loved it. It's a shame it's you know, like, film comedy must really be fucking dead, because this had a great marketing campaign. It's a genuinely funny movie, a genuine crowd pleaser, the kind of movie people say they miss and they want to see again, and it's gotten, like, a very tepid, lukewarm response to the box office. It's like, what more did they have to do? They made a really funny movie, they marketed it really well, they put a big star in it. If you want to see comedies at the big screen again, where the hell are you? Final Destination Bloodlines. I rewatched this because I was around at my parents' house. We're getting a Chinese, and my sister had missed this. She was, I think, revising for her exams or something when me and my dad went. And so we watched it again, and it was fun to watch it. I mean, it was just a great film. I absolutely loved it. It's sort of like sitting in my tentative top 10 list for the year, because it's just that much fun, and it's that well made and well executed. But this time in particular, it was so much fun to see my sister and my mum's reactions, because me and my dad had seen it. We knew it was coming, and so every time there's a horrific, gory moment, like a woman has her finger ripped off by her wedding ring, you know, and shit like that. It was fun to see their horrified, disgusted reactions. King of the Hill Season 14. I did a review of this for Screen Rant, so you can check that out. They were supposed to send me screeners, the dicks, and they didn't, so I had to wait till it came out and watch it just on Disney+. But it was great. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was one of the rare, like, sitcom revivals that lives up to the original and is as funny as the original, recaptures what made the original so great. But it's not just a rehash. It does something new. It jumps into the future. You've got Bobby as an adult now. He's got his own restaurant, and Hank and Peggy are retired. And they're in a post-COVID world. They're in, like, a world of vegans and microaggressions and the manosphere. And it was just so interesting to see the modern world through the King of the Hill lens, and see that Hank is older, but he's also become a bit more mature and a bit more open-minded, and he's changing with the changing world. And the only thing was, having Hank and Peggy in Arlen and having Bobby all grown up running his restaurant in Dallas, it means they don't have a ton of storylines together, and the joy of the original was the three of them, the family, you know, and Luann as well, but obviously they couldn't. I'm glad they didn't recast Luann, because you can't do that character without Brittany Murphy. She was that character, you know. And the best episodes of this season are the ones where Hank is bonding with Bobby, or Peggy's bonding with Bobby, and so the episodes where Bobby's off doing his thing in Dallas and they're doing their thing in Arlen, feels like you're watching two different shows, where they're disconnected. But it was, one of the best sort of sitcom reboot revivals of this era, where they bring back fucking everything. And they've got season 15 on the way. Apparently that was already in the works, so that's going to be out like within the year. And I can't wait for that, because they knocked it out of the park with season 14. South Park season 27. This has been so good. This is like the best South Park's been in years, where I feel like for years they've been so jaded did with the political climate, where it's, we can't make this more ridiculous, we can't satirize this because it is satire unto itself, it's so absurd. And it's like with this season they've gone, you know what, fuck it, we are going to satirize this ridiculousness, and we're going to just highlight the absurdity of it, you know. We're going to highlight that the Director of Homeland Security bragged about murdering a dog, and the fact that the president is a known pedophile and rapist, and the fact that, you know, he's openly accepting bribes from any government or corporation that will give it, and a tech bro spends his life in a perpetual K-hole, became like the most senior advisor in the administration, and he's not even American. Like, Trey and Matt are just going, let's show that for how fucking absurd it all is, and how fun doing it. And there's been so many fun, like, I feel like the MVP of the season has been little baby J.D. Vance being like the tattoo of Fantasy Island. Like him saying, would you like me to apply the baby oil to Satan's asshole, boss? That line occurs to me every couple of days, and it gives me a chuckle. The Naked Gun. I went back to Naked Gun a second time with my dad, and all the jokes from the first time were just as funny the second time, and maybe even funnier because you know they're coming and you kind of can anticipate them. So you're almost laughing before they even happen. And I noticed new jokes that I missed the first time. There's so many jokes and gags crammed into this movie that there's things I picked up on the second time that I hadn't noticed the first time. Like, there's a bit where he's inspecting a crime scene and he puts a glove on one hand and then picks up the evidence with the other hand that doesn't have the glove on. And it's just like little things like that, and the film doesn't even draw attention to it. So it's just all like that happens while Liam Neeson is saying a funny line. So like you only really need one joke at a time, but this is a movie that has multiple jokes at a time, in very much in the Zaz tradition. Boys Go to Jupiter. It's a wonderful little indie animated movie. I got an early screener of it to review it, and I thought it was delightful. It's like a little, coming of age story about this kid. It's kind of about the gig economy. It's a delightfully bizarre gonzo visual experience where it seems to take place almost in another world, and it's very colorful and vibrant and absurdist. But it's about the very real reality of the gig economy, and how money fluctuates. Like, this kid's trying to earn a few $1,000s by doing odd jobs. He's doing food deliveries and things through this app, and he ends up, even though all he does is work and grind all day and he's accruing all this money, he ends up losing money, and it's like this brutal kind of bleak look at like just the capitalist system that keeps the 99% down and the 1% up, and even just like the dialogue he has with his friends is like very, very naturalistic and almost feels improvised. And it's kind of like when you watch something like Reservation Dogs or mid-90s, and the conversations between the friends just feel so authentic. It was like that, but it's in this colorful cartoon world. It was really, really wonderful. Resident Evil Extinction. After I binge watched all the Resident Evil movies, my dad started binge watching them, and I was around at the house when he was on Extinction, which is like the third one. The one it was like, that was when it was just like Paul W.S. Anderson felt like doing a Mad Max movie. He felt like doing a post-apocalyptic road movie in the desert, and just did it in the guise of Resident Evil 3. And it's a fun one. There's a really clever moment where Mike Epps is in this room and he sees a zombie and he shoots it, but then he's just shooting a mirror and the zombie's actually behind him. That's a great little moment. Scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. Wednesday season 2. It's just the first half of season 2 that because Netflix is doing that annoying thing now where they stagger the release. Like, their whole USP was, we give you a whole season in one go, and they still mostly do that. But for the bigger seasons, for the bigger shows, they'll do a season across several different parts over a few weeks. Like the final season of Stranger Things later this year, they're gonna do in like 3 or 4 parts, and it's just a pain. It's like, fucking give it us all in one go. But I'm enjoying Wednesday season 2 so far. I don't know why it took them 3 years to come up with this. It's not like this isn't Andor season 2 or Severance season 2, but it's a fun show, and Jenna Ortega's kind of charisma continues to carry the whole thing, and she's so perfect in that role of Wednesday Addams. Like, obviously Christina Ricci's the GOAT, but Jenna Ortega's fantastic as Wednesday, and I'm invested in the story so far. I'm invested in the mystery, much more so than I was with the Hyde story in season 1. And I suppose the benefit of doing it in 2 halves is like they can end this one on a cliffhanger, and then we get to stew on it for a few weeks, and it was a cool cliffhanger. So I'm excited for part 2. Freakier Friday. This is the sequel to Freaky Friday. I did a review of this as well, so you can check that out. But I like this a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it'd be another lame duck legacy sequel we don't need, no one really asked for. Although I say no one asked for it, but then in my screening I saw tons of like mums and daughters together. And then as I stuck around and watched the second film the same day, and there was just more and more mums and daughter duos flooding into the screen playing Freakier Friday. So maybe it's just I didn't ask for it, but women did, But I thought it was wonderful. Jamie Lee Curtis was really funny and kind of playing a Gen Z kid in an older woman's body. You know, she had a lot of fun with that kind of conceit, and she was like the MVP of the movie. And it's just like a feel-good film. Like, it's the first one's funnier, but this sequel is like just as feel-good. In fact, maybe even more so feel-good than the first one. Weapons. Zach Cregger's sort of sophomore horror effort. This was the second film I watched after Freakier Friday, was because they weren't showing Weapons until like 2:30 or something in the afternoon, and I had nothing to do all morning, so I thought, oh, okay, I'll watch Freakier Friday as well while I'm waiting for Weapons to start. So that was an interesting double feature to do. But I fucking adored Weapons. That was like absolutely one of my favorite films of the year. Definitely in the top 3. Might even creep to number 1. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the year shakes out. But Zach Cregger, man, I love what he's doing. I love his kind of blend of like really disturbing horror and really funny dark comedy, you know. And with Weapons, it seemed like he kind of took the tone he'd established with Barbarian, the approach he'd established to horror, and tackles it on a much larger, more ambitious scale and pulls it off. That doesn't always happen. Like with, Olivia Wilde, she made Booksmart, it was a fantastic little intimate movie. And then she tried to do Don't Worry Darling, a much bigger, more ambitious film, and it completely fell apart. It completely, it lost itself. But Weapons is just as confidently made and just as accomplished a vision as Barbarian was, and just as much fun, and characters that are just as lovable, and just as you want to follow them just as much, you're invested in them just as much, and great performances, and really, really funny stuff, but also really, really scary stuff. Like there's the bit, spoiler alert, but there's a bit where Julia Garner's sitting in her car outside this kid's house waiting to see what happens, because the parents won't let her in, they won't let her see the kid, and the whole house is like boarded up. And she falls asleep in her car while she's watching the house, and in the middle of the night you see the front door open, and the mum comes out, and she's like almost like walking like a puppet on strings. She's holding what looks like a knife in her hand. She just walks all the way down to the car, and Julia Garner doesn't wake up. She goes around and gets in the car with her, and this is, I'm explaining it very quickly, but that's a long drawn out sequence where you're like, what the fuck is going on? What's gonna happen? Please, Julia Garner, wake up and drive away from this shit. Like, I literally almost had a panic attack watching that. That was so scary. But there's so much funny stuff as well, like the bit where Josh Brolin has like a long drawn out nightmare sequence, which is really, really unsettling and really engaging and really, really powerfully put together, and it ends on this big scare, and you just see him wake up. He's like screaming, he's panicking, he realizes he's okay, he's awake, and he just goes, what the fuck? And that got a big laugh, because it just reflects how the audience is feeling, So yeah, Cregger, that dude Cregger, I can't wait to see what he does next. Well, I know what he's doing next, doing Resident Evil. I can't wait to see that. One of the best horror directors tackling one of the best horror franchises. That's going to be a joy to see. The Moaning of Life. Last month I watched An Idiot Abroad, or rewatched An Idiot Abroad. And Moaning of Life, I don't think I'd seen all of it. This was like Carl Pilkington's follow-up show that didn't involve Ricky Gervais, didn't involve Stephen Merchant. And he's just going around the world in search of answers to life's biggest questions. And each episode tackles like how different cultures deal with marriage, or how different cultures deal with their own mortality and that kind of thing. And it's really interesting, because like obviously Carl is always funny, but it is interesting to see how these different cultures deal with these things. And when you're dealing with things like death, it actually, there's like parts of it where it stops being funny and just becomes like disturbing, but in like a really interesting way. Freaky Friday. This was the first one, not the Jodie Foster original, although I did like that one. But after watching Freakier Friday, I wanted to see the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis original. That I've definitely seen it before, but I hadn't seen it in a long time, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's so funny. It's a bit more kind of predictable, and the saccharine stuff is a bit less kind of sincere and heartfelt than the new one, which I thought pulled off that stuff really, really well. But it's so funny. It's a laugh riot, this movie. Like the performances are so good. Like Lindsay Lohan playing Jamie Lee Curtis, playing this kind of strict, overbearing mother in the body of a punk rocker teenager is fantastic. It's like one of the great comedic performances, and ditto for Jamie Lee Curtis playing the punk rocker teenager in the strict mom body. It's like sometimes in the new one, and partly it was because 4 people had switched bodies, but sometimes I lost track of like who's who. But you never lose track of it for a second in the original. Like when you see Lindsay Lohan playing Jamie Lee Curtis, you know that's Jamie Lee Curtis even though you're looking at Lindsay Lohan, if that makes sense, and vice versa for Jamie Lee Curtis playing Lindsay Lohan. Like the performances are that good, and they, that alone propels it to classic status. Eyes of Wakanda. This is a new Marvel show, animated, it's just like a 4-episode miniseries about like Wakandan spies through the centuries. It goes back all through history. And then the final episode does some like time travel stuff to tie in with the first Black Panther film, which was really cool. It was unexpected, and I liked it a lot. But it was an interesting show. It's like beautiful animation. Each one is an interesting little story. Two of them are actually written by Mark Bernardin, the co-host of Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith. He wrote Adora in the Distance, a great little graphic novel, and his episodes were fantastic. It was a great idea for a show, and it was executed really well. Weapons. I rewatched Weapons. Went with my dad and my sister, and I specifically requested I wanted to sit in between them because I wanted to gauge both their reactions. I thought that would be fun to see their reactions to the big scares and to the big laughs too. But it's like my sister was very entertaining. She jumped a lot and was covering her face with a hoodie a lot. It was very funny stuff. But it was just as great the second time. I mean, I loved the way it unfolds. I love the way we get each segment from each character's perspective. And in the Julia Garner section, it sets up all the characters, it sets up all the mysteries and the conflicts and all the unanswered questions, but it doesn't give you any answers. And then you see that same sort of couple of days from Josh Brolin's perspective and Austin Abrams' perspective and Alden Ehrenreich and Benedict Wong, and with each new successive chapter it peels back the layers of the answers of those mysteries and starts to explain things a little bit, and with each one, you get a little bit of a clearer idea of the picture. And by the end, you have a full picture of what's going on. And it builds to that awesome catharsis that brings the house down. It brought the house down in both screenings I'd been to. And, it's so gruesomely satisfying. And it still holds together. You watch it a second time, you go back and you do know everything. You do know everything's coming, And it all makes sense. You go back and watch the Julia Garner section that made no sense the first time. You were just intrigued and didn't know what was going on. Now you know exactly what's going on. You see that woman come out with the scissors and walking like a puppet. You know exactly what's happening, and it all makes sense. It all comes together. It's beautifully made. I fucking loved it. I went in with very, very high hopes and high expectations, and it exceeded them. Sausage Party Foodtopia Season 2. This is, the premise of Sausage Party, that a bunch of talking food don't realize they're going to be eaten when they get bought, and when they do, it kind of becomes this soft satire of religion where paradise does not await them in the great beyond, and the premise of talking food that like to fuck and swear was stretched thin in a feature-length movie, and now they've done 2 seasons of a streaming spin-off series, and I think it's finally run out of steam in season 2. I got early screeners to review it for Screen Rant. I gave it 4 out of 10, something like that. I gave it it was a rotten score. They need to let this franchise die. You've gotten all the comedic juice out of it you're going to get. And it's a shame, because Seth Rogen already gave us possibly the best TV comedy of the year with The Studio. And with this, he may have given us the worst. But yeah, it was, just stop. No one's asking you to keep making Sausage Party stuff. Breathless, the original French New Wave film, the original Jean-Luc Godard film. I did Domi's guide to this one, and almost no one watched it. The people who did watch it seemed to be enjoying it, but it did not do well. I was very proud of it. I liked how it turned out. I'd wanted to do a Domi's guide to a foreign film for a while, and I was trying to crack 8.5, but I felt like, if you don't know how to swim, you don't dive in at the deep end. So I'll build to 8.5. But I wanted to start off with one that's a little easier to wrap your head around. And this is a great little kind of jazzy, free-flowing French take on a crime film, on an American crime film. And it's a meta deconstruction of old Bogart thrillers. It's a true masterpiece and truly groundbreaking. A lot of films get called groundbreaking, but this one truly broke new ground and innovated new techniques and busted film language wide open. The Exorcist Believer. This is the opposite of groundbreaking. This is generic shit. It was, I didn't watch it in the cinema because I didn't want to. It didn't look very good. But it just came to Netflix and I thought, all right, whatever, I'll check it out. I do like David Gordon Green as a filmmaker sometimes. I like his comedies. I like Pineapple Express and, not so much his horror films. But this was really bad. This was worse than any of the Halloween films. This is, I can't believe how much money. I think Universal spent $400 million on the rights to The Exorcist. And they had to keep raising Ellen Burstyn's salary because she didn't want to come back and play Chris McNeil again, and completely understandably. Because this movie butchers her character. She's like a famous author who wrote a book about her daughter's possession and became an expert in possession. But in the original film, she goes to great lengths to hide her daughter's possession and hide that her daughter's going through trouble of any kind from anyone, from the press or the public. She doesn't want anyone to know. And by the end, she's so traumatized by it, she just wants to take Regan and move on and get on with their lives. She's not going to become a possession expert expert and write a book and become famous for the woman whose daughter got possessed. That's completely... And this, you know, the genius of William Friedkin's movie was that it plays it all totally straight. He shoots it like a straightforward drama, where one of the characters happens to then get possessed by a demon. But this was just a string of possession movie cliches that came in the wake of The Exorcist, and it sucked. It was terrible. The ending was stupid, where it's, you know... well, I don't want to spoil it, but also, what's the point, really, of avoiding spoilers for one of the worst horror films ever made? But it's a dumb twist. It just might as well... They paid, like, almost $500 million for the name The Exorcist, but it turned out like just another generic Exorcist ripoff. Like, really, all they bought was the name The Exorcist, and if they'd called it something like The Exorcism, something you could, like, get away with, they would have saved so much fucking money. I remember when it came out, Mark Kermode had one of his classic rants, maybe his all-time greatest rant, because he's a devotee of the original Exorcist, so he hated this more than a typical bad film, because it's a bad film that desecrates his favorite film. But he said something like, it was made by someone who has watched The Exorcist but hasn't seen it, something like that. And that's perfect. It's like, yeah, they saw a horror movie. They didn't see the genius, the mother-daughter drama that happens to fall into the horror genre. They just saw, you know, a possessed girl spinning her head around and throwing up and pissing herself and mutilating herself with a crucifix. They didn't see what made it such a masterpiece. They just saw, like, you know, oh, that's cool and scary. She's rising up off the bed. The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. This is the original one from 1936. This isn't a musical. It's just like an old black and white horror film. I think it's like an hour and 5 minutes long or something. I think the parameters of feature length were different back then. Nowadays, you can't watch a Batman film without losing your whole afternoon. But I love old school horror films. I love old school effects, and I love, I think grainy, old time black and white is a really great aesthetic for horror. You know, I love the old Universal monster films. I love Vincent Price films, William Castle films, and this was like a great example of that. It's that class, you know, the Sweeney Todd story is a classic, and this was like a very straightforward telling of it, but really effectively spooky. Peacemaker Season 2. There's another one I got early screeners for. They've only sent 5 episodes to the press. The 6, 7, and 8, James Gunn has said he doesn't want anyone to see in advance. That's where all the biggest twists are. But I'm loving it so far. I'll try not to spoil anything that hasn't been on yet. I mean, I'll be killed if I do. But as I'm recording this, I think only 1 episode's been out. By the time the video's out, probably will be 2. I love the conceit of this season. I love the multiverse thing where they're using James Gunn's using the multiverse as a vehicle for drama, not just like fan service and nostalgia and shit. Like, it's not a gimmick like it is in The Flash. It's much closer to like the Spider-Verse films, where it's a dramatic tool. Where in my review, I actually compared it to that Twilight Zone episode, A Stop at Willoughby, because once Christopher Smith has seen this alternate world, or his life is so much better, and all the things he hates about his life in our world is all better in that world. Once he's back, he's even more miserable in his current life and just wants to go back there, and that's like the Willoughby story. And it's John Cena's acting it really well. I think he's really stepped up his game as an actor. He's always committed himself very much to his acting roles, but he's at like the height of his powers now. He's at like he's achieved the Dave Bautista level, may even have surpassed Dave Bautista to become the best wrestler turned actor. They were very specific. They gave you a list of things you can't spoil, and I can't remember which episode it came into, but David Denman's character, Roy from The Office, is a really, really pivotal role, and he kind of makes the season, because it plays on Peacemaker's deepest insecurity and deepest regret, but David Denman's character doesn't know anything about that. He's just there to be kind of a symbol of it, and he's so good. He really knocks it out of the park. He really, to make this story work, you have to pull off that character, and he absolutely does. And he's as hateable as he is as Roy, because he was supposed to be. He's lovable in this role, because in this role he's supposed to be. It's like he can, whatever the story requires of him, he delivers. That's kind of like this mark of a truly great actor, I think. Well, you're not desperate for the audience to like you. You only want the audience to like you if they're supposed to. He's there to serve the story, and he serves the story here beautifully. K-Pop Demon Hunters. This has officially become Netflix's most watched movie ever. It went into cinemas with very short notice, like 2 months after it had been on Netflix, and it had been watched over and over again by a bunch of kids over the world, and it still became the #1 movie at the box office. I can't believe the phenomenon of this thing. So I kind of thought, okay, I should see what all the fuss is about. This is like the biggest movie of the year, and it's pretty good. It's not. If I was a kid or if I had kids, I'd probably have enjoyed it more. But It reminded me very much of Buffy, of like the kind of ragtag group of kids who moonlight as monster hunters, and all the songs were bangers. You know, they were all really great. I can see why it's become like the first soundtrack to have a bunch of songs in. It's something like the first soundtrack to have 4 songs in the Billboard Top 20 or something, some statistic. I mean, even like the Barbie soundtrack, like the Dua Lipa song and the Billie Eilish song from that soundtrack didn't crack the top 20, I don't think. And I felt like they were everywhere that year. So this is even bigger than them. And it's crazy. It's one of those things you really can't predict what's going to be a huge hit. But this has been a fucking huge hit. Normal People. This is a limited series with Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones, who I've enjoyed very much in things they've done since this, but this was like their breakout. You know, Paul Mescal obviously I loved in After Sun and The Lost Daughter and a bunch of great stuff he's done. Daisy Edgar Jones I thought was wonderful in Twisters. But this was their kind of breakout. It reminded me a lot of that show One Day, where it's on and off romance of these 2 people over the course of years and years. Where they meet in high school, he's the cool jock at the school and she's the lonely, weird outsider kid. But outside school, her family's rich and his family's poor, and his mom works for her mom, and that's how they know each other outside school. And they, you know, as much as he's like the big I am rugby player at school, he's sensitive and is a reader and stuff, you know, in his private time. And she's the only one who kind of gets that, who gets him. And so they fall in love, they get together, but he keeps her a secret from his friends because he thinks his friends won't accept it. And then it turns out like his friends already knew anyway, so it wouldn't have even mattered. But he kind of drove her away by doing that, by acting like he was ashamed of being with her. And then after he fucked that up, like if he had just been a good boyfriend in high school, they would have been together forever and it would have been fine. Because of that, they're on and off. They go to uni and they see other people and they keep coming back together, and she gets into a couple of really bad relationships and he has some like personal tragedies, but they keep coming back together and it's so beautiful. Their chemistry was so great, and it was compulsive viewing, like every episode. I couldn't wait to start the next one. It was really, really beautifully made, beautifully told, love story. And the ending, without wanting to spoil it, had me crying my eyes out. That's same with One Day. It was a really, really great little series. I highly recommend it. Materialists, the second feature of Celine Song. Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans are in a love triangle, and it was marketed as like the comeback of the typical rom-com. And it's not a typical rom-com, but I liked it more than if it was. I mean, it would have been great if it was. It would have been a fun movie. All those actors are great and had great chemistry in the triangle. But it's the Celine Song version of a rom-com. It's the Past Lives version of a rom-com, where it is very funny, but it's also very sad, and the dialogue is very naturalistic and very authentic to real conversations and real people's flaws and contradictions. And, you know, I enjoyed it. I can see why it's not a crowd pleaser, and a lot of people who went in expecting, you know, Pretty Woman or 10 Things I Hate About You were disappointed, because it's a much more cerebral film than that. I really enjoyed it. The Haunting of Hill House. There's another mini-series from a few years ago I'd missed then and caught up on now. Mike Flanagan. I thought it was terrific. It's kind of a dual timeline. You know, you see these kids in a house with their parents, their very dysfunctional parents, and the house is haunted, and it builds to where the dad grabs all the kids and it's like, we gotta get out of here, and they abandon the house and leave the mum to die. And they contrast that with the present day, where all the kids are all grown up and they have their own dysfunctions now, and they're reckoning with the past. They're reckoning with kind of like the dark supernatural aftermath of abandoning the haunted house. You know, like one of them's an addict, one of them can't really make emotional attachments, and it encapsulates the genius of Mike Flanagan's approach to horror, which is like he creates these characters and these stories who would work in, you know, if it was just a straightforward drama. I would watch a show about these siblings if there was no haunted house involved, if it was just about their relationships with each other and their relationships with other people and how they kind of try and reconcile and how they deal with tragedy and loss. But then you layer horror on top of that, it becomes even more compelling. And it's not just like, okay, a cool, tragic drama and also some jump scares. You know, the real genius is he uses the horror to amplify the emotions. Like, one of the biggest jump scares in the show is basically, I'm trying not to give anything away, but the big jump scare is what the subtext of it is the little sister who's been putting up with her family's bullshit for years and years is saying, please stop fighting, please stop yelling at each other and just get along and love each other. And that emotion hits really beautifully, but it's dressed up as a jump scare. It's dressed up as the most shocking jump scare in the series. So I was really impressed by it. I can't believe it. I had taken so long to watch it. Nobody 2. There's another one I did a review of, so you can check that out. But I really liked it. I love seeing Bob Odenkirk in anything, but as a John Wick style action hero especially. And this one is more overtly comedic than the first one. The first one was a little bit more serious, and this one is just, let's do a National Lampoon's Vacation movie where Chevy Chase is John Wick, you know, where everyone's trying to kill Clark Griswold, and he has the skills to fight back. It was so much fun. A great little popcorn movie, you know, pure action entertainment. Together. This was such a great theatrical experience to watch this with a crowd late at night, you know, and jump with them and laugh with them, and it's a great little body horror film. And again, it's another one I did a review of, so you can watch that video if you so desire. But I loved it. It's another one like Haunting of Hill House, where it's the base of it is a great little relationship drama. It's about a codependent couple who, when they move out of the big city and they go and move to the countryside, and the only people they know is each other, they're confronted with those problems. Those problems are laid bare about codependency, and she goes to work and makes new friends, and he just becomes more and more, doubles down on his obsession with her, but he also resents her and blames her that he didn't make it big as a rock star. And now that they've left the city, that's like the final nail in his dreams of being a rock star, and so he's more resentful than ever. And so all those issues are permeating through the film. And obviously Dave Franco and Alison Brie, being married in real life, they have that chemistry and that intimacy that they can pull it off, and that familiarity with each other that they can spot. You know, if the other one is being inauthentic, they would spot it. So they bring their A game and they're fully committed, and that would be great just as a straightforward relationship film. But it's a body horror film, and they start to merge bodies. They're physically drawn to each other, and the body horror stuff's amazing. Director Michael Shanks, the director, I think first time director, does an incredible job of pulling off these like crazy body horror set pieces, and every single one like brought the house down. The screening I was in, everyone was having a great time, where it's like deeply disturbing but also really fun, and it manages that balance really well that the best horror films do. I kind of like Weapons. I thought it was so much fun. Nobody 2. I watched Nobody 2 again. I went with my dad, and you know, it's a nice tight like 80-something minutes. It doesn't waste a second. When it's over, there's not like a scene where you're like, that could have been cut down, or that was a bit boring, and there's even a scene where you think he's about to have the talk with his wife, where his wife is going to talk about how disappointed she is, and you need to make time for the family, and you can't just be off killing people. But she just cuts it short. She just says, go and fix this shit, go and deal with this shit, and it takes 2 seconds. And I wish every action film would do that. I hate those scenes. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the 1990 movie, the live action movie. I did a review of it for Screen Rant, because I think it's just come out on 4K or something's going on. Maybe all 3 of those films, maybe. And I have very fond memories of renting this movie as a kid, and you know, in an actual shop, not on a digital store. This was in a brick and mortar fucking video rental place. And it's the flaws show now, where there's so much product placement. Like they order Domino's pizza. They live in New York, and pizza is their favorite thing, and they order from fucking Domino's. That's like when Michael Scott goes to New York and he's like, this is my favorite New York pizza place, and he goes to Sbarro's. And the way it portrays Asian villains is pretty racist and plays into like anti-Asian racist stereotypes. But I don't think a live-action Ninja Turtles movie should work as well as it does here. I mean, it shouldn't work at all. They're talking turtles who live in a sewer with their giant adopted dad rat, you know, and they eat pizza and they fight crime. Like, that's perfect for comics and video games and animation. But that shouldn't work in a live-action movie, and it somehow does. It works. It's not a masterpiece, but it works as well as you could expect it to. You know, Jim Henson's costumes were kind of like groundbreaking at the time. The way the performers inside those costumes were able to move and were even able to like express emotion on their faces even was like unheard of at the time. And the action scenes have a really nice kind of like Jackie Chan blend of stunt work that's being done really well and was really well choreographed, and it works as a fight scene. But there's this comedy, there's this like slapstick humor to it as well. So again, not a perfect movie by any stretch, but it's fucking good, and it shouldn't be good. Live action Ninja Turtles, you know? War of the Worlds, there's the new one with Ice Cube, the one that's like an Amazon ad, you know? Prime Air, the future of delivery. I had to see just how bad it was, because I'd seen a bunch of YouTube videos about it, and it looked like one of the worst films ever. whatever. But it was enjoyable. It was like The Room. It was like so bad it's good almost, you know? Like I could see it becoming a cult classic that groups of friends get together to watch and laugh at, you know? Like there's been a lot of bad films this year. Bride Hard with Rebel Wilson was just bad, you know, with no redeeming qualities. But this is bad, but in an enjoyable way. Like seeing Ice Cube react to nothing with green screen reflected in his glasses. But what's happening? Like it's on the screen, you see alien tripods destroying landmarks, and he's going, "Oh my God." Or because he's trapped in that room and he's just sitting in his chair, all he can do to be the hero is go, "Get out of there!" Like his daughter's on the street and the tripods are destroying the street, and he's going like, "Get out of there! Run!" Or like his Amazon delivery driver friend is, the daughter's boyfriend is in like a collapsing building. He's going, "Get out of there! You gotta get out of the building!" Like it was funny. It was like The Room. It's an unintentional comedy. It's one of the funniest movies that isn't supposed to be funny. And as much as Tommy Wiseau likes to say it was, The Room wasn't supposed to be funny. The Life of Chuck. This is another Mike Flanagan joint. It's a Stephen King adaptation, but not horror. You know, it's Tom Hiddleston. It's a heartfelt drama with a bit of a fantasy bent, where it's the end of the known universe is linked to this guy with a brain tumor, and it goes back in time through his life, and there's a supernatural element to it, and it's really beautifully made. Like there's, you know, it's a bit too schmaltzy and sentimental to be a real awards contender, I think, but it's a wonderful little feel-good film, and it touches on a lot of interesting themes and inspires like a zest for life. And there's a couple of scenes in it that I think were like iconic moments that, or should be anyway. There's a whole sequence where Tom Hiddleston is at like an insurance conference or a bank or a finance conference or something. He's like doing the most boring thing in the world. And he's walking through this town square, and this busker's playing the drums, and he is compelled to just put down his briefcase and start moving his hips, and he starts dancing, and he grabs this woman from the crowd, and she's dancing with him. And that was an incredible like musical sequence, and I could see that becoming an iconic classic moment. And the same with there's a bit where Chiwetel Ejiofor and Karen Gillan are sitting in the back garden watching the world end, and they have this like intimate moment where she's like, "I'm scared," and he's like, "Me too," and the world's ending around them, and they all they can do is sit and watch. They're powerless to stop it. And it was a really beautiful, like profound, beautifully acted moment, and it kind of felt like that's what it feels like right now. Like there's so much shit going wrong in the world, but what can we do? So I really liked Life of Chuck. I thought it was a great little film. Oh, and I did a review you can check out if I can just plug that. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia season 17. It's Always Sunny, the season ended this month, and this was probably the best season in years. I mean, it was, again, you know, it's they haven't had a season that was all hits since like the early days. Probably not for like the last decade. So this, like the last few seasons, this has been hit and miss, but it's been much more hit than miss. Like the only one I really thought was kind of lame and I didn't like that much was the kind of, well, the Abbott Elementary crossover was a bit of a letdown, and the kind of like Succession style corporate speak episode was a bit of a nothing burger. But the episode at the dog track was great. That was like a return to classic sunny pitch black humor, you know. And the whole arc with Frank being on the Golden Bachelor was a lot of fun. And the sequel to the underage drinking episode was fun. On the whole, it was a great season. Babygirl. This was the Helena Raines follow-up to Bodies, 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 which I absolutely loved. And it would have been cool if she had done another horror comedy, but this was nothing like that. It was like an erotic drama where Nicole Kidman's like a CEO and Harris Dickinson is like the unpaid intern she has an affair with. And I wasn't a huge fan. It was kind of lame. It was, you know, Secretary was like the best version of these kinds of movies, and every one of them since then has been like trying to be Secretary and not being Secretary. But this was an interesting inversion of that kind of Secretary 50 Shades formula where the woman is the one with the power. The woman is the one, in terms of the power imbalance, she's the one with the high paying, she's the one with the high ranking job, and he's the one who is expendable. But in terms of the sexual politics, he's still the one who's in charge, so it still adheres to those very, you know, patriarchal themes. But Nicole Kidman gave a fantastic performance as always. I'm not quite as smitten with Harris Dickinson as Hollywood seems to be. He has yet to give a performance that I find particularly memorable, and I didn't think he was that great in this. I certainly didn't think he was charming enough to sway Nicole Kidman away from her husband, who's played by Antonio Banderas. He was great casting though. He's fantastic in it. He gives a great performance, but he was perfect casting because it's not about her. It makes it clear that it's not about her not finding her husband attractive or not finding her husband charming. because he's the most attractive, charming man on earth. So it was great casting in that sense, and he was great in it. But the film as a whole I thought was pretty naff. Sword of Trust. This, I fucking loved this film. This was such an unexpected, delightful surprise. It was, Lynn Shelton directed it, the late great Lynn Shelton. It's got an awesome cast. It's Mark Maron is running a pawn shop, and Jillian Bell and Michaela Watkins come in with this sword that they claim is like proof that the South won the Civil War. The Confederates won the Civil War. And he's not buying it. He's not buying the line of bullshit and sends them away. But then he looks it up, and there's like these guys who believe the South won the Civil War and will pay like a ton of money for this kind of memorabilia that supposedly proves it. So he calls this couple, these two women, back in and says, I know you're full of shit, but let's go in on this. Well, first of all, he tries to just buy the sword off them, and they're like, well, hang on, you've changed your tune now. You must have found a buyer for it. So then he suggests, all right, we'll go 50-50 and we'll sell the sword together. But then it gets them in a world of trouble. Like, they're put in the back of a van and they're getting threatened for it, and they're being held at gunpoint by these crazy, maniacal, modern-day Confederate guys. And that's all very farcical and very funny, and, you know, that was all very unpredictable. But at the core of it is these people who have no reason other than trying to sell this sword. They have no reason to even be in the same room as each other. Weirdly connecting, you know? Like getting to know each other and finding common ground, and like that was something that Lynn Shelton always excelled at. Even in a kind of a semi-high concept comedy like this, she would find those moments of human connection. And yeah, I highly recommend it. It was a wonderful little comedy. Eddington, there's another one I did a video about. Finally came to the UK after, I think, came out in America like a month ago. I loved it, honestly. I mean, it's been getting a very mixed response, and understandably, because it's a movie about COVID, so naturally it's going to divide people, and it's literally about dividing people. But I thought it was fantastic. It like actually works as a Western. COVID is just the backdrop, you know? It's not about COVID, really. It's about this small town sheriff and his kind of feud with the mayor. And I loved Joaquin Phoenix in this. I loved everyone. I loved Pedro Pascal and Emma Stone and Austin Butler. Everyone was great in it, but it's Joaquin Phoenix's movie, and it might be it's definitely one of my favorite performances of his playing this. He's like a very meek guy, but you push him so far and he's gonna, you know, the claws are gonna come out. And it culminates in, like, it's a great little dark comedy up until this point, but in the third act it culminates in like one of the best action sequences I've seen all year. And it made me think, like, I want to see an Ari Aster action movie. I want to see him just do a straightforward like a Nobody 2 type, just balls to the wall action movie, and what he would do with that, because that climactic shootout is phenomenal. And the ending's a bit weird, but I think poetically beautiful in a kind of an interesting way if you think about it. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you think about what the movie's been about and what Joaquin Phoenix has been doing the whole movie, the ending, it makes some kind of weird, fucked up sense. Beau is Afraid. I haven't seen Beau's Afraid since it came out a couple of years ago. I went with my sister to watch it in the cinema, and we were like, what the fuck is this? And I didn't like it then that much, but I liked Eddington so much, and I liked Joaquin Phoenix in it so much, I thought I'll reevaluate it. I'll go back and give it another watch. And, you know, I liked it more this time, I think, than the first time, because it's a mixed bag. There's things you're going to like, and there's things you're not going to like so much. And I think the first time I focused on the things I didn't like, and this time I was able to focus more on the things I did like. I mean, the first hour of it is like almost a masterpiece. It's like perfectly encapsulates what it feels like to have anxiety, to have your head full of worst case scenarios all the time and catastrophizing. And the film beautifully kind of realizes every horrible thing Beau could imagine happening. Like if he leaves his front door open for a second, a parade of 50 people are going to go in and trash his apartment and smear shit all over his walls. Like every crazy thing his anxious mind could come up with actually happens in the film, comes to pass in the film. And I love that. I got a kick out of that. But then it does fall apart in the following 2 hours, and it doesn't need to be 3 hours long, the film. But there's, you know, there's little nuggets to love in those 2 hours as well. I just, there was long stretches where I'm just like, this is pretentious shite, you know. The whole sequence with the play where he goes inside the play and he imagines a future where if he'd had a normal life, he could have had 3 beautiful sons and had a lovely life with them. And, you know, it was technically very well, you know, the sets and everything it was all beautifully executed. I just, you know, that was where it feels like the film is disappearing up its own arse, you know. Spider-Man 3. I rewatched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 because I was doing an It's Not That Bad video about Spider-Man 3, because it's generally considered to be like one of the worst comic book films ever made, but it's kind of great. Obviously Venom sucks in it, and Raimi didn't even want to include Venom. But it's got so much going for it. It's got, compared to a lot of the bad superhero, I think it was because it was considered to be one of the worst then, when there was about 20 superhero films that had been made. But now there's hundreds. It's in the overall ranking, it's nowhere near the bottom. There's so many great action sequences in it. And Tobey Maguire, outside of the scenes where he's got this corrupted by the symbiote, and rewatching it, that's actually not that long of a section of the film. It's really one montage and a couple of scenes, and then he's back to being normal Peter. The Sandman is great in it, Thomas Hayden Church. He's a very sympathetic villain, and you kind of understand his motivation, and makes it hard to root against him. But anyway, that video will be coming out. Thief, the Michael Mann movie. This gets so much love, and I had never seen it. But I love Michael Mann. I love Heat. I love Collateral. I love his kind of neo-noirs, This was like the first one he did. And I loved it, It's got very slick visuals. It's kind of like, this is where he started. He famously sprays water all over the roads he's filming on to make it look cinematic and reflect the lights off it and things. And it's got an amazing soundtrack. It's a great performance by James Caan, one of his best of his career. Like up there with Sonny Corleone. Yeah, it was a really great little crime movie. Batman, the 1989 Batman, Tim Burton and Michael Keaton. Because I was doing there's another one I got a chance to do a retrospective review of. And it's an incredible film. I think I gave it 9 out of 10 because there's a couple of, I think the Prince songs on the soundtrack really stand out. Like they don't fit the vibe at all. Like Burton does such an incredible job of creating this gothic, spooky atmosphere. And then Prince comes along and, it just doesn't gel at all tonally. And I think that whole twist that like the Joker was the one who killed Batman's parents was a bit contrived and unnecessary. Like it's enough that, Bruce Wayne's parents were killed in Crime Alley, and then it inspired him to become a vigilante and fight crime and try and keep the streets of Gotham safe. And then the clown prince of crime comes along and, the Joker embodies that kind of evil, unscrupulous criminal that had inspired him to become Batman in the first place. That's enough of a connection. You don't have to literally make the Joker the guy who killed his parents. That's a bit too neat, a bit too full circle. Like it's a better story if it's just Joe Chill. It's just some guy, But other than that, it's almost a perfect movie. It's one of the quintessential Batman movies. Michael Keaton is so perfect as Bruce Wayne of capturing like the notion that Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is who he really is. And there's so many great little moments he has where he just encapsulates Bruce Wayne. Like when he's got one of his parties and Vicky Vale and her friend have broken off to go and look at some art, and Bruce just joins them and they're talking about like where this art piece is from, and Bruce just goes, it's Japanese, and the guy's like, how do you know it's Japanese? And Bruce goes, because I bought it in Japan. Or when he has Vicky over for dinner and they're sitting in this very elegant dining hall and she says like, do you like eating in here? And he looks around and he's like, I don't think I've ever been in this room before. And it's just, he's so down to earth. He doesn't give a shit about his wealth. He just, because he's so, he's so broken from having lost his parents in such a gruesome way that he witnessed when he was a kid. He can't enjoy luxuries like that. He's just like, the world's a cruel place. Who cares what table I'm eating off, And Danny Elfman's score is very moody and very atmospheric, and just, that theme tune is so synonymous with Batman that it's reused in everything, in the theme park rides and the animated series and the video games, and the same way the Superman theme, James Gunn reused it in his film, because it's like, why come up with a new piece of music when the John Williams piece is so identified with Superman? Like, why bother? We already got the perfect Superman theme, and we got the perfect Batman theme courtesy of Danny Elfman. Although I do love Michael Giacchino's version, bum 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 bum, from The Batman. Fixed. This was a really bizarre little film, little animated movie about Adam Devine plays a dog who's about to be neutered, and he goes on one last bender with his friends before he has to lose his balls. And there's so many dog balls and dog assholes in this film. There's apparently been like a passion project for Gendy Tartakovsky. What's the guy? Samurai Jack. And he directed some Hotel Transylvanias. One of the big names in animation. I think he did like Powerpuff Girls, and this was his passion project, to have a dog with a big pair of swinging balls go on one last crazy bender before losing them. And it's fun. I mean, I think it could be funnier. It's more just gross than funny. But the voice cast are really great. Like, obviously Adam Devine's great, and Catherine Hahn is in it, and Fred Armisen and Idris Elba. This was like the movie Strays wanted to be. Strays, I think, was very tame for what's set out to be like the R-rated dog comedy. And that's what this is. This is the one that's not afraid to be edgy and R-rated. And I mean, I enjoyed it overall. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but it was a fun film. Long story short, it's the new Netflix animated series from the creator of BoJack Horseman. And it's got that same BoJack mix of being really funny and really silly and having some absurdist moments and hitting really close to home emotionally, And this one, I think, is much more personal personal. That was like about a washed up sitcom star who's a talking horse. But this one is about a family. And it feels very personal. I don't know how autobiographical it is, but it feels like Raphael Bob Waxberg is really opening up. And it's got this unique non-linear structure where it jumps all over the timeline. Like if, for the given story of an episode, if it helps the story to go back and see these kids in the 90s as they're growing up before we see what's happening in 2022 or we see what happened in 2011 or something, then they'll show it. And, it's not in chronological order at all. Like we'll see them as kids and then we'll see them miserable and divorced with kids and then we'll see them, falling in love with their spouse years earlier. And then, you see the sister asking her brothers if they'll donate sperm for her and her partner to have kids. And then you see years later her and her partner have got twin boys. And then it goes back to when she's still trying to figure out how to get the sperm. And she's saying, like, I really hope we have girls because the last thing this family needs is more boys. And already that they're going to have twin boys. It's like just things like that where it's the non-linearness is used. First and foremost, to capture how much we change over the years, how much our lives change and how much our relationships with each other change over the course of decades. But also to do fun little storytelling tricks like that and little pieces of irony. And it's a great voice cast. Jonah from Superstore and Abby from Broad City and Schmidt from New Girl are the three siblings, and Paul Reiser as their dad. Lisa Edelstein as the mom, who's like the classic kind of overbearing Jewish mother archetype, but coming from a very real place. I absolutely loved it. This might be my favorite new show of the year. It's been a joy to binge watch it. I didn't even binge it because I didn't want to go through it too fast. I kind of wanted to parcel them out a bit, so I've been watching them, like one a day because I don't want to just plow through them all and then have none left. But it's fantastic. It's like how many people's, if they have one hit show, how many times does the second one live up to it? But in this case it does. It feels just as fresh and subversive and idiosyncratic and in its own way. It's not just copying BoJack. It's a really, really wonderful little show. I highly recommend it. Barbarian. I haven't enjoyed Weapons so much. I gave Barbarian a rewatch and it's so fucking good. It's like what Weapons did where it expanded it and got more ambitious with it. Barbarian is just a perfect little standalone crazy horror film and a dark comedy and it's one of those ones when you know the twists are coming but you have a smile on your face kind of waiting for them because this crazy thing's about to happen where the mother shows up and then we cut to Justin Long singing, Ricky Ticky Ticky, Mongoose is gone. And then when he starts trying to like measure up the basement and it was so much fun watching it in the cinema not knowing where it was going the first time, but since then every time I rewatch it I've just as much fun even knowing where everything's going and kind of anticipating it. It's a really, really rewatchable little horror movie. Alien Earth. Been watching Alien Earth on Disney Plus and I've done a video about it and a rather extensive one, so I don't need to go too much into it, but I'm kind of disappointed so far. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like I've got, it's got like an almost perfect Rotten Tomatoes score. It's like the #1 new show on Rotten Tomatoes in a world where Peacemaker and It's Always Sunny exist. And I don't get it. I'm not enjoying it that much. It's, the scary stuff, the horror stuff, the stuff with the xenomorphs is very, very cliched and very kind of modern horror. And all the B-movie kind of stuff that Ridley Scott had pushed against. And the whole concept of kids in adult bodies is just creepy. And I don't get it. I don't get why it's so acclaimed. And I was excited for the show, and it wasn't like I overhyped it or I decided in my mind what it should be, and it's not that. It's just, I went in with an open mind. I was looking forward to it. I really enjoyed the first 10 minutes or so, because that actually felt like the original film. And since then, I'm just like, what? But, I did a video about it, so you can check that out. And, I don't think we're even halfway through the season yet, so it might be premature to judge it, but I don't know, I'm not digging it so far. So they have everything I watched in August. Well, not quite everything, because I'm going to watch The Roses and The Toxic Avenger back to back, but I'm recording this before I'm going to get to do that, so I'll include them at the start of September, but they'll be our little secret that it was actually the end of August. But yeah, great month, some great little discoveries. Long story short, was delightful. Together was a mind-blowing little horror movie. Weapons was a pure delight. Yeah, as we go into the third year of these, as always, if anyone has any recommendations for anything you've been watching, or if you watch something that was god-awful and you think people should steer clear of it, drop it in the comments below, and I'll speak to you next month. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.